October 3rd was the official day that they called my son's death. I talked to my son on September 27th, 2014. And, we were just, having conversation. My son was incarcerated. He was 2 years in on a 6-year sentence. Unfortunately, my son is a young man who got caught in the public school system that would rather discipline children for behavior problems as opposed to finding out why the behavior problems are happening. And my son went through a host of issues, going to school, bringing weapons to school, feeling like he had to protect himself at school and trying to get home from school. And that lifestyle carried him through 3rd grade till he graduated. He carried a gun all the time, and that was something that he and I argued and fought about all the time. And so the more I tried to show my son a different lifestyle, like, this is what we do, this is what adults do, we go to work, we take care of our families, we don't carry guns to school, we don't carry guns to work, not unless you're the police. And so he liked the lifestyle, but he wanted to take the path of the stories that he heard of his father that was a gang member. And sometimes when young men hear those stories about their fathers or their uncles, being gang members, those are stories that's like telling a young man about Superman. Like, that is something that is impressed in them. And no matter how good of a life that you try to show them on one side, is it something about that bad boy mentality on this side that they tend to go for. And my son struggled. Lives. Unfortunately, like I said, that landed him incarceration. So when he called on that Monday, our regular conversation, Mom, we got your book. We've been using your book as a Bible study. My publisher has sent him a copy of the second book that I wrote, You Never Walk Alone. And him and his the other inmates were using it as a Bible study tool. So he said, Mom, they're going to call you tomorrow to say what day you can come up to talk to us. So I'm like, okay, I'll wait for the call. So the next day, I get a call, and I'm thinking that it's, the prison calling saying that, here are the days that you can come up. But unfortunately, they're telling me that your son has been rushed to the hospital. And that's pretty much all. I'm like, well, what hospital? Like, all of these things are going through my head. Then I get another call that, they tell me where he was rushed. Like, hours later, they tell me where he was rushed to. He was rushed from the prison to one hospital where they found the issue, and then he was transported to another hospital where they had to prepare for 10-hour heart surgery. Never knew my son to have heart problems. So it was a great surprise, but it was met with a lot of pushback from the Department of Corrections. I was not given permission to go on, or I was not given permission to go on the side of the hospital where my son was recovering. I wasn't allowed to see him until the prison gave us permission to see him. And that meant that a piece of paper had to be transported to the hospital, or I had to go to another prison to pick up a piece of paper and drive it back to the hospital where he was. in order to see my son. So the first morning out of surgery, they finally allowed me to see my son, and the medicine trays were taller than me. And the doctors are explaining, what took place the day before and where he was now. And, I'm hearing this, but I'm like, I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience, because it's like I'm hearing it, but I'm not hearing it. I'm like, my son just talked to me on Monday, and here we are now, Wednesday, and I'm standing here watching my son laying in bed, just laying there with everything hooked up to him, and also two correctional guards watching every move that I make. When I tried to go in and just kiss my son, I'm met with, no, you can't do that. You can't touch him. Here your son is possibly dying, and I can't touch him because he is still property of the Michigan Department of Corrections. So I had to call my boss, call some people, call a senator that my son used to work for and I used to work for, and I had to use my backdoor channels to get information about what was going on with my son, because no one would tell me. The hospital said that, Department of Corrections hasn't given them permission to tell them, to give out any information about my son. So I had to use other resources to find out what was going on with my son. And the following day, as I'm at the prison picking up this piece of paper to take to the hospital to show them that I have permission to see my son, I get a call. As I'm getting in the car, I get a call from the doctor saying, you may want to call your family and friends down because he's not showing signs of life. He took a turn through the night, and it's just a matter of time at this point. So, of course, you're trying to call your family. You're calling, you got to tell your daughter, you got to tell his daughter, because he has now a 5-year-old daughter. And, all of this is happening and it's on my shoulders. And I'm trying to make sure my daughter is okay. I'm trying to make sure his daughter is okay. I'm trying to, happen to give the news to my family. It was hard. It was hard for me to have to organize it, but who else was going to do it, right? So I had to, as they say, I had to be strong. I had to be strong for everybody but me. And after the CAT scan, they said that it was too much bleeding on his brain, and it was, they were going to pull and call it the following day, which they did on October 3rd, 2014 at 11:19 a.m. I got the call that that Emilio has made his transition. During that window, at the age of 18, Emilio became an organ donor. I had him to register because my grandmother, who has a donor's eye, if you ever meet her, she has a beautiful blue eye and a beautiful brown eye, and it gives her the opportunity to keep her independence. And so explaining that to my children, this is why I believe in the organ and tissue donation program. And so my son checked the box. So when the doctors saw the direction of his end of life, the organ and tissue, the Gift of Life donation program approached me about him signing up for the program. And so he was able to have his transplant surgery on Saturday, October 4th of 2014, and, changed the quality of life for 6 individuals. So even in his last act of kindness, he was able to give his gifts so that others could live. Most definitely, I credit my children because no matter what situation we were in, being homeless 27 times, they they didn't hate me. They still loved me. They still respect me. We were still together as a family. I tried to make sure that they didn't miss anything. We did the family trips. My son played football. I tried to get my daughter. Me and my son tried to get my daughter in at the play sports, but that wasn't her thing. Um, but she's very smart and